Welcome into the crypto bunker. Today we're going to be talking about tech stocks. We're going to be taking a look at some stocks through the Nasdaq and showing you why I believe that we could be entering into a bigger sort of correction for the Nasdaq. And when we look at it on the daily, it's interesting. It looks like to me we have put in a complacency leg. We've come down. We've formed a W here. And then we got rejected, and now it's looking like it came down, and I actually could see it sort of bouncing in this region maybe for even another month, because I don't think that we're necessarily gonna go directly into a correction here. And so, I think I don't know, a lot of this is important though when you're talking about crypto. Okay, that's the reason that I wanted to show you guys some of this. And if we look at it on the weekly and even the monthly, this is the biggest weekly down candle that we've put in since February 2020. Which was like here. And then as you can see, we did come up again after that. So when you get a candle like this, it doesn't look good. And it's below all of these other ones here. So it closed lower than all of these. So it's making lower lows and lower highs, which is not what you want to see. But I could see a possibility of one more little fake out. And I don't know if we'll make it up all the way to this complacency at 400, by the end of January or something. We have options expiry probably for the end of January. Maybe that's sort of when we start to see more volatility. I'm actually looking, and then I'm looking at this candle here that we put in before this red. This is a classic gravestone doji, which means we tried to go up and we got completely rejected all the way back down to where we started. And that's a classic reversal sign. And it's sort of a macro reversal in my opinion, because we didn't put in a gravestone here. Obviously, we put in a massive red candle there. And we sort of just been bouncing. And we're kind of rolling back. We're rolling over a little bit on the weekly. And if you actually look at the RSI, you can see as we've been going up and making higher highs, we're actually making lower highs on the RSI, which is a bearish divergence. We actually did that same thing with Bitcoin. If you remember, running up to 64,000 and then even the 58 complacency leg, we had just like this, we sort of have been making lower highs here in the RSI. And so where do we come back to? In March 2020, we went all the way down to the 200-week moving average. Right now, we're right below, and we closed below the 20-week moving average. And so, what's the next step? For where we could go, we could come down to this level. Especially if we break this uptrend, which we're not even far away from breaking really at this point. I think we could see this 200-day again. Maybe not, maybe we see the 300. It depends what happens. If there's some type of event that precedes this crash, which, some people are predicting, and people have said March. Too many people, I think, are saying March, so I think it's possible that it will happen earlier. It could even happen this month. In reality, the chart looks really, really bad here. Let's take a look at some of these other charts, because I think it's important to put into context how bad even these look. Some of these look a lot worse than the Nasdaq. And the reason that, again, we're looking at this as crypto analysts is because we want to see, what are risk assets doing in the macro sense. As you can see, with Microsoft, we've now been rejected multiple times. This is a daily chart. We just crossed into a bearish divergence here when the 50 crossed the 20. And again, I believe this is a chance that we could see a reversal because we topped out, higher than this. Obviously, we got rejected. We sort of got rejected again and rejected for the third time. But I think looking at it on the weekly and the monthly is even more interesting here for this. And let's see if we can look at it on the weekly. We did the same thing. I think a lot of these bigger stocks like the Microsoft, Google, Apple, the FANG stocks have really carried this market, and they're heavy at this point. They've been going up for so long. If we take a look at the monthly, we can see sort of this macro, how much of a bubble this is really. If you look at how much this has ran, check it out. It's impressive. And the crazy thing is it's again, like we've hit this line again where we're in this like bubble. This is actually where we were. This is actually where we were in the, sorry, I gotta get that RSI up again. It's where we were in 2000 for the bubble here. And then the line we can put in comes all the way back across. And sort of has come. So if you look at it like this, yeah, so if you look at it like that, you can see like that's sort of the limit. We've been again going, we've hit this 3 times now, all the way since March 2020. And we have the Fed coming in and tightening, and look at this on the monthly. This is a classic, once again, a classic macro gravestone doji on the monthly chart for Microsoft. This is not something that we usually see. There hasn't been a monthly candle like this in a long time. And even the fact that like we then put in a gravestone and then a dragonfly, which is like, it's almost like a yin and yang type of thing. Like usually a dragonfly will also signal a reversal, but back to back like that is very rare. Usually you would see the gravestone, then a correction, then the dragonfly, then we go back up. But this almost signals to me like almost double signal of reversal to the downside. And if we're looking at it on the monthly, like it's pretty crazy how like the 200 moving average on the monthly is so low. I think we can definitely come back to test this 253 range, and I wouldn't be surprised at like 200 either. There is a ton of liquidity in the system still. So again, we could pump again, but if we look at sort of like what did the candles look like here, we never really put in our gravestone back then, but we did put in these bigger red candles as we started to top out. We even saw like a gravestone here, not as big, and then another reversal. So there's always the possibility that like we get some stupid, even more of a blow off. I have no idea, but just look at how crazy this got. You can't even put it on the chart how crazy this is. Then I look at another one that's some of these that look pretty bad. We can look at Oracle, for example, which is a software company, one of the biggest in the world. And this actually is probably one of the worst looking charts that I've seen. Look at this candle that came up and we got massively rejected. Now we're sitting below this trend line and we got rejected again at that trend line. So for me, like I think we're coming back to around like 52 here for Oracle. And you can see sort of see this on the monthly. Like Oracle is an example of a chart that never really does this. It did it here, and then it just did it again, but now it's rolling over again. So it's gonna come back to its trend line. If you get lucky, it's at the top of the trend line. Maybe we catch support at 67, or the middle at 60. But in reality, I think lower bound probably 50 to like 56. I don't even know how to short some of these, but I wish I did, because I even called this at the top, because just how bad it looked there. Well, I don't even know if I can show it here, but they have a yearly chart. I'm not sure if you could see like a yearly chart, but the yearly chart, even for Oracle, is pretty bad as well. Let's look at Google. Google looks terrible as well. And it's hard to even know because there's so much money in the system, right? Like, what is even going to happen? Like, is there going to be like a total lead balloon that comes out? But I mean, just look at, how much of a breakdown we've seen in Google. And you can kind of think like, okay, on the daily, we're almost at like the 200-day moving average, for God's sakes. But look here, we came way below 200 in this crash. And so again, I think there's a chance that we see a little bit of a rally, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a rally in crypto either. That sort of was like a last final complacency, because we also look at like Hedgeye, Keith McCullough, who he created the quads, the quad model, and he believes we're in a narrow quad 4 heading into a possible stronger quad 4. And it'll be interesting because I think the Federal Reserve, I think what they need is a crash. And so if they get a crash, because they don't want to tighten. At the end of the day, they don't want to tighten because they know that it just won't work. But I think that, if they get a crash prior to tightening, then, we're looking at something different. They might not even tighten. So on the weekly, there's, this is where we kind of caught support down here in March 2020. So we're all the way back at like 1500, which sounds crazy. It's like a 50% correction from here. But I mean, just think about how much we ran, in this name. Even means crazy. Like, we never really even seen like a true sell-off because the whole thing has sort of been a bubble. If we look at the RSI on Google, let's see. I mean, it's not reminding me exactly the same as some of these other ones. It did make a higher high here. But if we look at some of these candles it put in, these are sort of the dojis that I look for as like reversals. There's a gravestone there, dragonfly, sort of just chopping up in this range and then now getting rejected and now, not really catching support. Like, I don't know where the next support may be, like down around like 1700. Again, this, it sounds crazy, but we haven't had like a nice correction in some of these, and honestly, for these to crash like 30 to 50% or something, like, we need like sort of an event to happen, and I don't know what that event will be. Obviously, I think with Omicron sort of being gone in the next couple months and COVID sort of dying out, there's going to be, hopefully not anything else that happens, but it's just kind of the world we live in, that it's a little bit crazy. So who knows, something. And you could see like we have a gravestone here, correction. We have a doji here, correction. Doji here, correction. Doji here, correction. Usually these get bought up. But again, we haven't closed this far below the 20-week moving average for Google since this back here in February 2020. So we really could be seeing, I mean, something like that, that comes in here. And again, I think we could sort of come back up like this one. See how we came back up and then we got rejected again and then we came down, and we're sort of doing that the whole way down. So I think, if we could see these moving averages in corrections, they sort of act as a backstop. But it's concerning to me that this is the first time we've closed below the 20. I mean, I guess since back here, but then that was the time to buy. In this scenario, though, you can make your own decision. None of this is financial advice, but again, it just kind of looks different. It looks like we really got rejected a bunch of times here, and we've been trying to break free of it, and we just can't. Again, we put in this doji here, and they just, none of these really look all that great. Obviously, we can let's look at Facebook. I haven't even looked at that one yet. Yeah, I don't know why it's. Oh, Meta, yeah. It's Meta now. Meta, what the hell is it even? Meta Platforms, jeez. Yeah, Meta Platforms Inc. Okay, let's look at that. Again, I mean, this just doesn't look good to me. Let's see. Let's see if we can get a weekly on this. To me, it looks like, let's see. This one actually looks better than maybe some of the other ones. Might have already put in its correction. But again, we can see these like this divergence, sort of like lower highs here for the RSI and higher highs, obviously, here. So on the week, let's look at on the monthly. I mean, on the monthly, you can see like, it's not, I mean, this could just kind of be like its complacency here. Yeah, that's possible. You can see that's sort of the line that we trended. We got rejected again. And we're sort of like flattening out, like we're not really catching too much of a bid. And so again, for Facebook, are we looking at like a correction down to the 50 week? Probably. 200 week, possibly. It's always possible. Let's look at Ethereum. I mean, Ethereum just cannot catch a bid, and that's why, I've been looking at these tech charts and wondering, what's going on with it. Sorry, this is super busy. I'm going to just go to a different chart. So let's get a fresh chart going here. Like Ethereum, let's look at it on the monthly. It looks pretty bad. Let's look at the RSI in the monthly. See how we've been making lower highs here? Still a lot of room to run to the downside, honestly. If we look at where we stopped out before, it was around 53, and right now we're at, and I'm saying back here. So honestly, like, again, it's hard to say, but are we going to catch support here? Where are we going to catch it? I mean, I think obviously the weekly is probably the best time frame for, but oh yeah, I wanted to look at the moving averages for the monthly here too. So yeah, I mean, we're looking at like 2,000, and then down here is like 1,000. Excuse me. Let's look at it on the weekly. So right now we're sitting at the 50 week, almost, like a little bit above it. And as you can see, the 200 week is down at like 1,000. And so in March 2020, right, We can look, did we come down? Where did we come down to? Let's see, March 2020. Yeah, this was the crash here. I'm not even sure, like, oh, the 200, see, they didn't even start it till then, but so that's not useful for us. But yeah, we haven't seen anything even close to, on the weekly time frame. And again, I think like we could get a relief here to like 34 maybe, or 35, I'm thinking. And then like sort of flatten out, and then maybe, get the real correction. And I'm looking at like low levels. Like I'm setting bids right now on Coinbase Pro, around 1700, around 2000, around 2600, 1400, 1600. So, and I wouldn't even be surprised to go lower, but I want to try to catch it. So, that's just sort of what I'm looking at. We can also look at sort of like this fib extension here. It's possible to get it. We broke through that support for sure. As you can see, like that complacency sort of support where we came here, we're through that support now, which isn't great. So the levels here, 1715, 2600, that's sort of why I set my bids. I looked at these levels, 1715, if you want to be exact, 1715, 74. And that would also match up with our 100-week moving average. Right now, we kind of bounce off the 50, but the 100 is down at 1659. I would not be surprised at all to touch that. That'd be like a 50% correction from here, which is like a March 2020 style crash. And people keep saying like, oh, the RSI on the daily is like as low as it's ever been. So I'm like, okay, that's why I'm saying we might get like a correction here, but in reality, could just kind of be a fake out. See, we're looking at this, we're still not like as low as some of these other levels that we've seen before, for Ethereum. So let's take a look at Bitcoin, because that's still the God market. Still the king of crypto, obviously, with its, and I think that maybe this is what we need to like wash out the king, honestly. I think Ethereum, with proof of stake coming, I'm super bullish, and that's what I should have said before, but I'm really bullish on crypto. And macro wise, if you just hold through the dips and through all of this mess, eventually you will come out on the other side, and it could be a longer term, 10-year type thing. But it is what it is. Let's take a look at Bitcoin. And again, we've crashed through the support there. So yeah, I'd say that's like those are some nice levels. So yeah, we're looking at like 29,337 is the next key level. 40,000, we sort of bounced off that area already, 40,126. Let's look at the moving averages for Bitcoin, the ribbons here. So we've crashed through the 50, and now again, this 100-week is sitting down here at this level around 30,000, and then the 200 is around 20,000. So those dreaming of the 20,000 days, it's possible. I'll say it's possible in a major event sell-off situation. For me, I'm just aiming for these targets down here. I don't want to get too crazy. I think most people will have their bids set down at those levels if they have any. But yeah, I mean, I just wanted to highlight how bad some of these have looked. Let's look at Matic, because I mean, I've said 208, right? So that's like where we're at, on Twitter. But let's see, like what we can look in like a major correction. I think like it'll be like around $1 from what I'm remembering for this, but yeah, I mean, yeah, so I guess let's just look at this trend line because trend line's down here at like 134. You know, and then we have another support trend line sort of like down here around 180. So those are a few levels for Matic to look at. We can look at the, see if we can get this to go in here. Yeah, here we go. See, we caught some support on that. Let's see if we can get these levels. So yeah, let's look at the levels. Like I'd say 121, and then worst case, obviously bottom of the bottom, 62 cents is where we came to at those. And if there's an event, I'm not gonna be surprised to see the bottom of these, which is crazy to say, obviously, but it is what it is at this point. So I think that's sort of what we're looking at for some of these. Let's look at Polkadot. Polkadot is now looking pretty bad. See how it kind of, you know, we got rejected. We got rejected pretty much right on this line here. If we look at that. So now we're just facing like 10. I mean, I already looked at the levels. The levels are $20 and 10.37, I think, or something. So if you're trying to set bids for Polkadot, if you're trying to set bids for Kusama, it's around like 143 is the low. So hopefully you guys got something out of this video. I know it's sounds super bearish. Just be strong. If you don't have, you know, a ton of like stuff in crypto, I'm not saying to like sell. I'm not, you know, giving financial advice. All I'm saying is that if you have dry powder on the side, that you should think about setting some bids on possibly on Coinbase Pro, possibly on Kraken or whatever site that you might use to set buy limit orders on certain levels. So hopefully this helped put things in perspective with tech. Obviously we have, you know, tech not looking great. But again, like I said, we could have a little bit of a rally this week. And then that's when I'll be looking to short if I can. I mean, I probably won't short, but maybe I'll short a little bit of the Nasdaq or something like that, just for fun. But we'll see what happens, and have a great day.